Accuracy orders have been found with different types of tests in different second languages, although most work has been done on studying English. A similar order in a second language has been identified among people with different first languages, from different environments, of different ages, and when assessed with different types of tests. Note that most of the research focuses on identifying the existence of an order rather than trying to identify the causal factors. Developmental pattern studies are among those most replicated in the field of SLA, and the findings consistent enough to be called robust, and the systematicity of root taken as a fact that language development theory must be able to explain. Another fact is the variability in rate of development. These studies look at developmental features, those we must be ready to acquire. There are also variational features, those aspects that can be acquired at any time. That said, lots of developmental stages have been found. For example, for negation, WH questions, relative clauses, possessives, past tense, the verb ser versus a star in Spanish, etc. Since we can only measure the knowledge in our heads indirectly, in this case via output, it is theoretically possible that people have the knowledge in their heads but can't yet use it accurately. Hence why I take care to refer to these as accuracy orders and not acquisition orders. Deviation from the native language system gradually diminishes over time. What this means is that we are not mastering one structure before we move on to mastering a different structure. Accuracy evolves. In fact, research into stage development shows that progress is not always accompanied by improvements in accuracy, and in some cases progress is marked by a decrease in accuracy, what is called U-shaped development. Studies that have attempted to change the order of acquisition have failed. Research has even found harmful effects of explicit grammar instruction. For example, the taught structure is then avoided or overused, and even appears to delay real acquisition. Dooley and Burt called the first paradox in second language teaching the fact that while the teacher and student are focusing on structure, a lot of what gets taught is not learned, and a lot of what is learned is not taught. Rules in practice cannot replace input, but it's at least theoretically possible that rules can assist someone in making more meaning of the input. Leaving aside the fact that textbook rules are inaccurate and incomplete, another major problem is that rules are hard to learn, remember, and apply. And let's say we knew the accuracy order of all forms for the language we teach. Can you think of why it's a bad idea to try and structure input in a classroom along that order? Take into account the variable rates of acquisition of everyone in the classroom and the restriction this would put on communication. Most language classrooms today are still aiming for high levels of accuracy of each grammar rule before moving on to the next rule in a linear sequence of textbook grammar rules. That is definitely not an acquisition classroom, and that approach conflicts with the SLA research dating back to the early 70s. The idea that language is not subject matter was expressed by Dooley and Burt in 1973. They wrote, "This may be because language teachers are supposed to teach language and not anything else. Just as social studies teachers or science teachers are supposed to teach social studies or science. Though this analogy sounds reasonable enough, the fallacy lies in comparing language, which is form, to subject matter, which is content." All of the research on developmental patterns should inform our expectations and force us to consider what we can and cannot control. Dooley and Burt are happy to talk about the implications, since in a way this makes the job of the teacher easier. Rather than teach, they say the role of the teacher is to create the conditions, the environment, that will be in sync with the student's natural language developing mechanisms. So, why do you think teachers learn this, and even like some skill building and sociocultural researchers, ignore it or don't believe it? My hunch is how language is controlled and practiced in classrooms, and how it is tested gives them a different impression. Just think, how many classroom teachers today assess grammar like Dooley and Burt? That is, orally and spontaneously, in which the students do not know what is being tested.